Hello, nice to meet you. This is Dr. Kim. Yes, hello. This is Kim Ki-hoon. You look casual today. Oh yes, we have a barefoot walking event later today. So if any of our subscribers have time, they can join us for some health benefits. We'll be walking barefoot, and if you have any questions about real estate, we can discuss that as well. So, I've prepared for this hike for the first time.
On one hand, it feels like a fan meeting, so today's outfit is quite casual. Today, I read an article about how there is a problem with intentionally buying a house at a high price and not registering it, which falsely inflates housing prices. I would like to discuss these deceptive practices aimed at raising housing prices.
Many people, naively, believe that this is just about where the reports have been filed and that prices have gone up. But you can't just believe all of this. They go to unimaginable lengths to inflate apartment prices. For example, you might be really surprised, but when was the real estate market at its hottest? 2021. That's right, it was 2021. At that time, I bought and sold an apartment. I signed the contract, but then I didn't register it. How many cases do you think there were in 2021?
Isn't it obvious that there are probably a few hundred cases, right?
How much could it possibly be?
Anyway, if you don't report it, you'll end up paying fines later.
This is something, it's 9,000 cases in just 1 year, 9,000 cases. So the real estate market in 2021 was incredibly hot, right? Nearly 9,000 cases were registered as silver. Then the value of our apartment goes up. So in the case of someone like Richgo, for example, if my house is currently worth 1 billion won and someone offers 1.1 billion won for it, then if I put my property on the market, what would I do with the price? You would likely raise it, right? My house was traded for 1.1 billion won, so I would increase the price. This is human nature. Therefore, engaging in such false transactions can inflate real estate prices. So this is a recent article, and it mentions that various efforts have been made to inflate housing prices. Therefore, after a transaction, they are not registering it. This has been happening at least over the past 3 years, up to 2023. And since the market wasn't that hot in 2022 and 2023, there were 200 cases of fines imposed due to violations related to trust in apartment sales.
You knew you would receive a fine, right? But it seems you didn't feel any burden regarding the fine.
However, there are fines associated with this. I will explain in more detail later, but the fines are not very severe. And looking at this, it says that about 200 cases were subjected to fines. And this involves intentional price hikes, circular transactions, and false transactions. So, there are suspicions about this. If you look at the data, in 2021 alone, there were 8,900 cases of apartment sales that were not registered, 3,170 cases in 2022, and nearly 1,000 cases in the first half of 2023. In 2023, there are almost 2,000 cases. If we include the second half of the year, just from the first half, there are about 9,000 cases, 3,700 cases, 2,000 cases, and nearly 15,000 cases. Among these 15,000 cases, how many received fines? Only 200 cases? Really? Yes. So, it turns out that the number of fines imposed is not as high as expected. Additionally, if you look at this, there are 27 cases of actions other than fines, such as notifications from the tax office, 191 cases of lawsuits or provisional seizures, and 77 other actions. When you combine all of these, the total number of cases related to unregistered transactions that have received or are expected to receive fines and administrative penalties is nearly 500. So, as you can see, there is something called the Special Measures Act for Real Estate Registration, and if you look at its contents, it states that you must apply for the transfer of ownership registration within 60 days after the payment date of the housing sale contract. If you exceed the registration application period, you will receive administrative penalties, such as fines. This is the case, and according to the laws regarding real estate transactions, If a real estate transaction is falsely reported, a fine will be imposed. So, there are related laws in place, and the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport investigates by considering the payment date and the registration deadline. If 6 months have passed since the apartment transaction was reported and it has not been registered, they are currently investigating these cases. Since 2021, there have been almost 15,000 cases like this through 2021, 2022, and 2023. Believing everything naively about how much our house is worth can be very dangerous.
That's right. Anyway, it's an intentional belief aimed at inflating prices. There is actually no way to know this. If the fines are increased, wouldn't that discourage people from not registering their transactions so specifically?
So, I looked up how much the fines are. As you can see here, the fines for unregistered transactions vary depending on the period, but they are not that high. It's 50,000 won and 300,000 won.
It's just a ticket when driving, more than I expected.
That's right. It's really not much. But is this a false report of a real estate transaction? So, determining whether you did this falsely or not doesn't seem like it would be easy.
It is about intent or not.
That's right. In the case of false reporting, the fine is up to 30 million won. Then, for the failure to report the cancellation, the fine is up to 5 million won. It's like this. For example, if I list an apartment worth 2 billion won, then a few transactions get reported. What happens as a result? For instance, if 1 or 2 apartments in a complex of 1,000 or 2,000 units get recorded, what do you think will happen? The atmosphere changes.
The atmosphere is uplifting. The vibe is everything.
It completely lifts the atmosphere.
Yes, that's right.
But the fine is only 30 million won. So, if we consider our friend Michigan as a group trying to manipulate the market, would they carry out a scheme to inflate apartment prices or not?
I think so. I feel like it will happen. If it seems like this, I think it will happen.
That's right. So, I hope you keep in mind that there can be enough of these kinds of situations, and then who would do such things, and why.
That's right. Anyway, it seems that the people who made mistakes will suffer some consequences, right?
So, who will do it? It's obvious, from my perspective as someone who benefits, only when real estate prices rise. It doesn't seem like individuals will be involved. Rather, it will likely be companies or groups. For example, if I need to sell an apartment, what would the atmosphere be like if there were no reports of rising prices? Since such events actually occur, I hope you keep in mind that to drive up prices, people are willing to go to unimaginable lengths. Therefore, you should never be swayed by news about new songs or scandals. I wonder what our subscribers who are watching this video think about these issues. It would be great to discuss these in the comments together.
Anyway, the prices become inflated and people end up buying at those prices. Isn't there anything the government can propose as policy measures to prevent such situations?
I don't think it will be easy. This will not be easy.
How? Do you know this?
So, the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport is planning to check this over a period of 6 months to catch any violations, but as you saw earlier, out of about 15,000 unregistered cases, the number that received fines or administrative penalties is really minimal. So, realistically, it seems difficult to completely eliminate this issue. What points should we pay attention to in order not to be deceived by these fraudulent transactions? Are there any tips for that? Well, the most important thing is that getting caught up in the atmosphere and preparing to buy a house is really dangerous. The atmosphere matters. Because for construction companies, developers, and real estate-related businesses, each transaction is a significant business unit. If things go wrong, they could face enormous losses. Therefore, it seems they will do whatever it takes to boost the market. That's why relying solely on news from the media or reports of new highs to make market judgments, especially when the market is highly overvalued, and only focusing on buying a house, is truly risky.
Today we discussed the issue of unregistered transactions in the real estate market. Due to false transactions, housing prices are rising, ultimately causing losses for genuine buyers. I hope that these issues can be resolved quickly, and I would like to conclude by inviting you to share your opinions in the comments.
I think that would be great. Please share your opinions as well. Thank you.